All righty, welcome everybody to this special edition of Brownsville Tech Live. And in the house tonight, we've got Bryan Martinez, who is running for City Commissioner for District 1. Bryan, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Brownsville Tech Live, for having me today. It's a pleasure.
It's the first time we've had you on, so we thank you for accepting our invitation. Um, I just wanted to give you an opportunity, starting off, to kind of introduce who Bryan is, basically where he's from, what he's done, and why he's running for the commission.
Thank you, Daniel. So Bryan Lee Martinez, um, he was born and raised by a single mother in La Posada, which is a neighborhood in Southmost. He is a driven community native and impassionate advocate. I love to build alliances. I love to fight for issues that affect our quality of life. Uh, but most importantly, all of these factors make our community stronger, and that's what I'm about is being behind community. So I grew up in Southmost, and I had the pleasure of witnessing the area really develop over the years. If people were not aware, but District 1 was actually one of the very first incorporated areas of the city. And as that area continues to grow, so do the needs. And so as the area was expanded from this last redistrict that we did as a city, it did acquire new areas, and we did increase the population of District 1. So for many years, that area has been overlooked and underserved. And with me being involved in the community and also seeing firsthand everything, I felt really obligated to take a step up and file my candidacy for District 1 Commissioner. I really think that it's a new time for the generation to get involved in the city leadership and have a seat on the commission itself. So that's why I decided to have my slogan and say a new generation of leadership. That's really the message that I want to be able to portray with that. So I've also been very involved for about 8+ years. I've served on a lot of community nonprofit boards in addition to a lot of city boards. Well, not a lot. I've only served on two, but I've been there for about 4 years, and we've had a lot of good work done on there. Um, my professional background includes 10+ years in the marketing and PR industry. I own and found my own marketing agency called Influence Marketing, Influencing Lives. Um, and I currently work as chief of staff for one of the city commissioners, Roy de los Santos.
Right. Yeah. Well, one of the things I wanted to focus on is for those that don't know what District 1 encompasses, I'm going to go ahead and flip to another screen real quick if you give me a second. Um, Basically, this is our virtual theater screen, and we've got our virtual iPad on tonight. And we'll go ahead and flip into the Brownsville electoral district. So basically, what you're saying is District 1 currently encompasses kind of southmost, right? All of southmost, as you can see right there, all the way down to uh, a little bit of downtown. Is that true? A little bit of
So
downtown?
the majority of downtown did stay in District 4. One of the main objectives in mind when they were redistricting was that there was a appropriate amount of separation between the districts, both residential and business.
Yeah.
And we know that the District 4 downtown area specifically continues to grow and is one of the main focuses as a city. So that is not part of my district. My district actually goes through 14th Street. The
Okay.
main dividing line now is Boca Chica. So everything south of Boca Chica is District 1. Everything
Okay.
above is District 2.
Okay.
Some of the new areas that I acquired as a district was also the El Naranjal, which is over here by Boca Chica, about east, I'm sorry, going
Yes.
towards Boca Chica Beach. And
Yes.
we also acquired El Ramireño, which is Riverside, over here on west side. As you can see, it's kind of like a U.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. All All right. So that's basically, so you're actually in my, you actually, your district encompasses my old neighborhood. I'm actually from Southmost too, by the way.
Very good.
I
You
grow
know,
up,
it's funny, Daniel. A lot of people I come across with have that same origin. We all came out of Southmost. You know, it was one of the first areas, like I mentioned, and it always comes up that if it wasn't them, it was their mom or it was their uncle that they were from Southmost, and that's why they were always there. So
right?
I love that we have all of us have that in common.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I grew up in Southmost all my life. I went to Cromac. I did not go to Falk though. I was zoned at the time for Oliveda, so I went to that middle school. But then I was zoned back at Porter and graduated from Porter. So I definitely am familiar with the district quite a bit. I don't live there
Yes.
anymore. My parents owned a home at one time, but with my parents ceasing, we sold the home. But I still have a lot of family down there, so
Yes.
it's definitely something that I miss, you know. To be honest with you, and this is not knocking anybody on this side of North Brownsville where I live, but you know,
Oh, please.
back 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 when I was a kid, I used to tell people, neighbors knew neighbors. You went outside and talked to your neighbor next door. All the ladies in their neighborhood knew exactly what was going on, when it was going on, and so forth. And unfortunately, when you move to other areas, you don't have the same thing. You don't have the same camaraderie, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it, but definitely the old neighborhood is something that I miss, quite a bit. So, you know.
No, you're absolutely right, Daniel. When I graduated high school, I left to college to San Antonio and I was up there for a whole year. And I did notice the difference that I was not a city boy.
Yeah.
I would not want to live in a big city. And one of the main reasons is exactly that I like knowing my neighbors. I like knowing the people from the corner, my elected officials, the business owners. It really builds a sense of belonging. And I really appreciate that because when you're in a big city, your life is going so fast that you don't even see the same people every day. And I
Exactly.
really appreciate that kind of lifestyle that we have here in Brownsville.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about. Let me flip back to the screen again. Give me a second. Put a larger screen. Let's talk a little bit about the district and some of the things that obviously you want to focus on with regards to the district. I mean, no matter where you live in Brownsville, everybody is interested in economic development. And, there has been a focus, at least for the last few years, about the interest of redeveloping downtown, obviously. And, there have been some people that kind of criticize the emphasis on downtown versus places like Southmost, especially when it comes to, opportunities for business and so forth. So, what do you think we can do in District 1 with respects to economic development to, allow people who, would like to start a business or so forth to have an opportunity to have access to the same kind of resources that, somebody in some of the other districts may have?
Definitely, yes, sir. That is actually one of my top priorities is economic development in addition to quality of life. I believe that those two components go hand in hand. And the reason for the economic development part is because when we think of Southmost, I've had a hard time being able to really pinpoint restaurants within the district, coffee shops, for people to be able to go and work and be there. We don't have those kinds of things in District 1 where we have a full scale restaurant. That I believe is a missed opportunity for us because one of the things that I want to work on is being an attractive district to not just the city but to the region itself. What makes us different? Why are we going to attract people to visit our district? And that's the question that we should be asking ourselves. I think that as a city, we must be proactive if we want to continue to attract and grow our communities. And one of those ways is by being being proactive and being prepared. And it can be as easy as getting a list of all the vacancies, vacant lots within the district, getting a list of all the vacant buildings, having that ready for investors to come and tour the district and say, this is the traffic count for this corner right here. Whereas it would take them an additional 3 to 5 weeks to obtain this data, we can be prepared and we can have that with them, give them a stellar presentation and say, by the way, we can offer you incentives if you want to move down here. It's a very different approach, and it's how we sell ourselves. I don't know if it's my marketing background, me wanting to really like paint everything beautifully, but I really do think that we have our perception that we need to clean up as a city. You don't know how many I have some colleagues that are business commercial realtors, and they've shared so many stories of businesses and investors not even considering Brownsville because they know the uphill battle it is to open up a business here, and that in itself is our greatest enemy. One of the what was the other question you asked me? The
No, the
second
question,
question you said.
yeah, the question was how do you, how can we make people aware of some of the uh, tools that are available from the city? I know that the city opened up an e-bridge center because there's a lot of people in District 1, especially in Southmost, that have an entrepreneurial spirit. I mean,
Mhm.
there's people out there selling tacos, frutas. I mean, there's even people selling cigarettes when they're not supposed to, right?
That is one thing I will give this community is
you
that
know,
that characteristic is very much embedded in this community. They are very hardworking people, and they work it. They will find a way to make money and provide for their family.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things, that I feel that the district down there, because I lived there and you've lived there, there's a lot of people out there that want to start their own businesses. They want to do their own thing, but a lot of times they don't know how to get the funding, the capital,
Right.
and so forth. And I think, over the last few years, there's really this emphasis in downtown. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with focusing on downtown, but we forget that there's other places in the city other than downtown where people want to
Right.
be given an opportunity, and access to the same kind of tools and maybe funds.
Correct. I did attend that grand opening today at the eBridge Center. And for those that are not familiar, this is a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs, if you will. It is the largest entrepreneurship center south of San Antonio. We are very, very proud to have that itself. One of the things that I am very fond of from that center is that we have a trademark patent office here, which is the only one south of San Antonio, and having these resources here available to the residents is really pivoting because just as we create all of these technical training and other opportunities, people don't have to go and do a full-fledged college career and get a degree. They can make a living off of technical colleges or going and pursuing their own entrepreneur idea. But having those resources available was very imperative. And after years in the making, we finally are able to have this center open. A lot of the people that I come across with that I know are business entrepreneurs. I direct them to this center because I say, you have no excuse to open up your business. You can't do a budget, they'll help you create a budget. You don't know marketing, they'll help you do a marketing. They'll help you develop a model, they'll help you develop a brand. And that's really what I think is going to make the biggest difference. I think that if we use this tool correctly, we can help the business community grow in Brownsville. But we need to be big advocates of that. And I'm speaking as our elected officials. Our elected officials should not just be like gatekeepers of that. They should be advocates for it,
Right.
where we are helping these businesses connect them to the right places for them to open up their business.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things, you touched on, I think, a few moments ago, as you talked about how difficult it is to conduct business in Brownsville. And I mentioned to some of the previous candidates, in the past that, we have to do something to kind of make it easier. I'll give you a little story. When I was 12 years old, I wanted, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but I wanted an Atari 2600 back in those days. And my parents wouldn't necessarily buy me one, okay? So I got this bright idea that I wanted to start a raspa stand, okay, down on Southmost. There on 27th where I lived, I started this raspa stand. Here you got this 12-year-old kid and things were great. I mean, they were buying, the kids around the neighborhood were coming over and they were buying stuff. And then all of a sudden, I see a car drive up, and the very first one it is the city health inspector.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, talking about an education. Well, to add insult to injury, not only did I have the city health inspector show up, but I ended up also getting a visit from the state controller office. And I learned pretty quickly at 12 years old that I needed a permit. I needed a
Yep.
permit, a sales tax permit, and I
Yep.
needed a health department permit. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't difficult to get the sales tax permit. It was hell trying to get the health department permit because there was all sorts of regulations that you needed to follow. At the end of the day, I think they cut me some slack since I was 12 years old and I just wanted my Atari. But my story is a little cute in a way, but in reality, as I started a business a few years ago, I ran into so many issues at City Plaza with trying to get permits, getting my certificate of occupancy. I would go and give them the information, and then they tell me, yeah, you got this, but now you need this. So it was a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth kind of thing. And I think, a lot of people experience that and they kind of get disillusioned. So, what can we do to kind of make, Brownsville business friendly?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head. Definitely, the permitting process is our number one factor that we need to fix. We can't open a business if we don't have the necessary documentation and requirements that they require. So definitely making it easier for these business owners to process their documents. I know one of the recent efforts that the city did was they digitalized the permitting process.
Uh-huh.
This is still in the works. The whole objective of it is for us to see the status of where things are so we can notify the business owner, but most importantly, document these things because Daniel, just like you, I have heard stories of business owners who say, well, it's because this gentleman came and told me that it has to be six feet away from the wall. And this other inspector came 3 months after and tells me, no, it's only three feet. And
Right.
so there I have not one, I'm paying rent. Two, I'm paying employees. I'm not making $1, and now you're making me spend more money because I have to go back and fix it just for your liking. So I
Right.
think it's standardizing the permitting process where we have a black and white process for business owners to abide by. It's not up to the individual. It's up to us being up to code. That's what it takes. And I think if we can have that in paper and be more black and white about it, the story wouldn't change as much
Right.
for them to be able to open up their business.
One of the things I want to touch a little bit on, and it's back to the district, really. I grew up there, and you obviously grew up there, and my parents and my grandparents, lived there, and as a natural progression, as people age, their homes become less kept, because old people can't necessarily keep up with some of those things, but especially on the street that I used to live on, I kid you not, I went over there, maybe about a year ago, and I saw the what's happened for some of these citizens who can't keep up with their yards, because they're older and stuff like that. I mean, what can we do, to try to? I mean, is there anything the city can do to help these citizens? Because especially the old folks, I mean, what can we do to try to help them? Even if it means fixing a piece of board that's fallen off, their roof or something. But there definitely is a need down there for some attention, and cleanup. And what can we do moving forward to help some of those citizens down there that need the need? that have those needs.
No, Daniel, one of my very first efforts, if I get elected, is to create a list of needs for the district, both for the business and for residents itself. Because when I get asked by the city manager or the commission, what can we do with this extra money that we have? I want to be ready and say we have to do X, Y, Z. This is at the top of our needs list. Um, I'm very big on collaborations. I think that collaborations minimize a lot of the overhead sometimes for the players involved, for the partners. So I'm very big on working with organizations that provide these services. There shouldn't be a redundancy in our assistance. If there's already a nonprofit out there that helps elderly with their yards or to keep sidewalks clean, why don't we engage as a city with an MOU and say, hey, help us with X, Y, Z, and in return we'll do X, Y, Z. You know, it really takes a village to get things done. And I think the more we work together with the resources that we already have, we can see where the gaps are, and that's where the city takes a more involvement. Is what can we add to it, not duplicate, but add. But there's also a lot of assistant programs out there, Daniel. I think it's lack of education for some of these families that because we live in this community, there's so many resources available to us. We're just not aware of them. So I am compiling a list right now, currently to put on my campaign website, and that includes help with utilities, resources, things of that nature that people can go to and they can apply. I'm very fortunate to be in a position in my life to be always approached by people and say, hey, I need help with this. You know, where can I go? Or my favorite question is, I want to get involved. And I say, don't tell me that because I will put you to work.
Yeah.
So I love being in that middle position because it's really an honor to bridge these people to the right direction. People sometimes have the greatest intentions. They just need a little push. They just need, you know, a little bit of guidance as to what they can do for that. So it's definitely exploring the resources and educating the public to help them with that.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to mention to the viewers out there is that we do have our chat lines open. For those viewers on Facebook, you can send in your chats via Facebook. You can send in your chats if you're on YouTube, and of course, for the younger folks, we're on Twitch as well. So you can send your Twitch chats as well. We do have a Bryan. We do have a question from a user, from a citizen. They're saying that one of the things they'd like to see happen is the cleaning up of the ditches so it doesn't look like a forest. And being down there, I mean, I remember a time cuando avientaban hasta los colchones adentro del canal. Actually,
Yep.
we used to swim in the canal and actually fish in the canal. So
That's how we build our immune system.
that's right. That's how we built our immune system. And we used to, and we'll talk about flooding a little bit. And but one of the things as a kid, I remember when we had hurricanes, no hombre, we loved when the canal overflowed because that was like a swimming pool
It's
to
a
us.
free pool, yeah.
That's right. Free pool. So yeah, I mean that's one of the things that we've got to probably do a better job is trying to clean those ditches, because I believe that if they're clogged up, the water can't flow, and that
Yes.
kind of contributes to some of the flooding too, right? So
Yeah. And it's maybe taking some preventative efforts, having a filter maybe there where it doesn't allow for the trash to push through. But I know that there's already organizations in place, like with Richard Hitchcock's, for example, with the RGV cleanup. They do a lot of cleanups all around town, and they have really made it a big initiative to keep Brownsville beautiful by not just the organization getting involved, but they ask all the residents of the area and say, hey, let's make your neighborhood beautiful. Come out and bring a bag and let's pick up the trash that's there on the corner. So it's more of those collaboration efforts, like I said, with organizations that these things can be. There's a solution for these things. I'm very fond of people coming up to us and letting us know of the issues that are happening because if they don't speak up, there are eyes and ears out there. We're not aware of the needs that are there. So
right.
I applaud. Thank you for that comment. Thank you for bringing that up.
One of the things I wanted to touch on, because I think it actually affected it affected all of us during the last 2 years, was obviously the COVID pandemic. And one of the things that we found out pretty quickly at the onslaught of the pandemic was that, people had to start working from home. Our kids had to attend virtual instruction. And one of the very first roadblocks is that we found out that a lot of our citizens didn't have internet connectivity, and they had to resort to a device like this. I mean, you remember the lines, that kids were and their parents were waiting for a, a piece of equipment like this. And in the end, it wasn't very, very high speed, to be honest with you. And they
Mhm.
also had to wait in line for a Chromebook, you know, because a lot of kids didn't have access to technology. And I know that the city's got a fiber connectivity project, and I've had a few commissioners on before, as well as some of the mayoral candidates a couple of days ago, and I talked about this issue that came about, and the concern that I have, and I don't think anyone really has answered this for me because they probably don't have all the information to begin with, is that I hear that it's scheduled to be 100% coverage across the city. And when you live over here in North Brownsville, plus you've got access to Spectrum and AT&T, and you're cool and happy. But I remember living down on Southmost. I remember when I was trying to get high-speed internet access through AT&T,
Is it
I
available?
it wasn't available. Or if
Yep.
it was like a block away. So, being in the IT industry, and I've been in this industry for 30 years, I've connected buildings and different locations, and I know the obstacles when it comes to running fiber and wire. And while I believe that the goal is 100%, my concern is districts such as District 1 that they do get that coverage. I think it's important that our citizens down there do get that coverage because there may be situations where they can't run a wire down there. So what are we going to do? So one of the things that I've asked this question is, in addition to the fiber project, shouldn't we look at other alternatives? Starlink, for example, or maybe 5G. Those technologies are emerging. I know that we want fiber, and I'm all for fiber, but I know there's going to be challenges. But one of the things that I think somebody as yourself coming in is we need to kind of open our eyes to the possibility that we may not get to 100% coverage, and if so, what's the alternative, especially for people in District 1. Now I've heard that price range about $40 a month, which is great, right? It's great. I hope I can end up paying $40 a month. I pay too much, right? But what do you think we can do to ensure that the citizens in District 1 do get the coverage? I do not know what the phase out plans are, meaning who gets it first, second, or third. But I think if
Yes.
anybody needs it, District 1 needs it more than North Brownsville needs it, in my opinion, because we already have high speed internet
Right.
access. Uh,
Yes.
I mean,
And
what's your
I do
take on
agree
all
with
that?
you, Daniel. I think that the connectivity issue is one that affects both residential but also businesses.
Yeah.
I think this goes hand in hand with economic development. If companies want to move here, but they can't because their business will not be operated. They wouldn't be able to operate it because of the lack of connectivity. So it really does affect the whole lives of the residents. I agree that we should have, even if we are able to obtain 100% of the fiber, there should be options for us to also have some areas, like you mentioned, may have greater connectivity with a satellite. I
Right.
know that the Starlink is really up and coming, and it's being available in rural areas, and it's taking full advantage of all the resources that we can, and make those available to the residents for their convenience. This is not a cookie cutter kind of solution. There is going to be different approaches to this. The city, I think, has done a good job in investing in the fiber,
Yeah.
All of the investment did come from ARPA money from the American Rescue um, Plan Act.
Right.
I do know that they are beginning the installation of the middle mile infrastructure beginning the week of March 20th, with the very first ring being in the downtown area since they are trying to revitalize that itself.
Right.
That middle mile consists of 100 miles for the city itself.
Right.
So I think as we continue to progress, we should also measure and survey the service, how it is being used, and where we are missing opportunities and where the gaps are, because that will be the opportunity for us to present other alternatives, other options for the residents to be able to have a full scale connectivity.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, God forbid that we ever have anything like a pandemic again. But when that first happened, I mean, my daughter was okay because she had internet connectivity in more than one way. But yeah, I really felt bad for a lot of the kids that didn't have it and had to wait in line for something like this. Uh,
I remember the
s-
school buses parked at the corners of each neighborhood with the
exactly.
hubs.
Yeah. I mean, that was something
Yes.
that was just incredible. One thing that I would like to see, hopefully, one day is that we're completely Wi-Fi connected across the city. That, no matter where we go, that, we can just, move from cell to
Public
cell.
network.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A completely wireless network altogether. So one of the there's a user that has another question. It's the same user. I think he's a District 1 citizen, but he says, is there a shortage of police officers for District 1? It seems like whenever there's a shootout, police never respond. I don't know. I mean, is there a shortage of police officers down there? I mean, I know there's a
It's a
police
valid
station.
concern. Yeah, definitely. So I actually have been approached by residents and in my block walking these past weeks, where they have noticed that the lack sometimes of police officers that they can see in the streets. So I took it upon myself and I did check with the department, and they do have patrols out there. The Southmost Network Center right now is not open as it was prior. That is one of the conversations I want to have with the department to see if how feasible it is for us to reopen that, because I know that having a network like that, a location like that around the neighborhoods really does bring some peace of mind to the families that live there. Because when something happens, an emergency, hopefully it never does, but when it does, we want to have the law enforcement there as fast as possible. So it's about exploring the resources that we have and seeing how we can make sure that the whole city is covered equally.
Yeah.
Not that certain areas are, well, we need to send more police officers over there. No, I think there should be dedicated officers for the district itself where they stay there. Because like as you saw on the map when we pulled it up at the beginning, that the district one encompasses a good radius of Brownsville from west to east.
Yeah.
It pretty much goes from corner to corner. So for us to have something dedicated, I think it definitely would help.
Yeah. Another user's got a question. I didn't mean to jump into questions right away, but we've got an active group tonight. There's another
Love
user.
it.
Adam, Mr. Adam Barbosa says, would you support moving commissioner meetings to 6 p.m. to be more inclusive and accessible to the community? I have no idea when they start, so he's asking if they can be moved to 6 p.m.
Yes, the meetings do start at 5 p.m. It's usually the first and third Tuesdays of the month. These meetings can run sometimes from 2 hours to 5 hours. It
Oh my
depends on the
God.
business, on the amount of business that we have with the city. But I am most definitely open to bringing these suggestions to the commission. One of the one of the abilities that we have as a commission is to set these things ourselves. So it can definitely be something that we can consider. I'm huge on accessibility for the public. I want the public to be out there and to voice, their concerns or their opinions on certain matters. It
Right.
should be open to that. So definitely, Adrian, we'll consider that.
All righty. Let me go ahead and clear the comment here. One of the things that I wanted to touch on is street repair and oh, we got another question. What's going? A lot of times, if I don't pop up these questions, my viewers will get mad at me and they'll send me nasty text messages
It's
afterwards.
all right.
So I
Bring the
hope you don't mind.
questions.
It says if and when fiber optic gets to the southmost, I think cameras on the intersections will increase safety and security.
I agree, and I can attest. The perfect example to that is downtown. There's been many times when I've called PD because there's an incident happening at the corner or in front of me, and they will say, "Where are you at?" And they will pull the camera right there, live feed, and they say, "Is the gentleman wearing a yellow shirt?" And they say, "Yes." And that has really increased the response for security reasons. I know a new program that was launched with the PD department was I can't remember the name of it, but businesses and residents can pretty much allow the police to tap into their cameras. And when there is a situation happening around that area, they tap into your camera automatically because they have the permission, and they are able to have more eyes and ears on the ground. So those cameras on intersections definitely do increase the safety and security.
Right. Well, one of the things I wanted to touch on a little bit is obviously road repair and flooding. I mean, I don't know if Southmost, the street itself, still floods. I mean, remember back when I was a kid, it usually did. I think maybe when they did that retention pond, it kind of helped some of the
Right.
flooding. But definitely I do know that, traveling through my old street, a few months ago, there were some potholes and things like that. And, what can we do is there, funds available to, do some street repair down in the district at this point?
There's always going to be need out there. And I think it goes back to having a list, like I said, of the necessities of the district. I know that this past year, in 2022, the city of Brownsville passed the largest infrastructure budget in its history because we had those extra funds on there. So I know that the ball is rolling, but we need to be very focused on what the needs are and be prepared to to put those resources to the streets itself. Um, what was that I had?
Well, one of the
And
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, one of the things, and yeah, I mean that's one of the things I remember from my past is that we had those situations occur, and hopefully we can have an emphasis on trying to repair some of those streets. One of the things that I wanted to ask you a little bit is there always appears to be an emphasis to have all these events at the main public library branch. You've got 3D printing classes and God knows what other stuff down there. But I know there's a library down in Southmost. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. I don't know how many events are held down there, but do you think that we need to have more of those kind of things, especially, when it comes to things like 3D printing? I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with STEM,
Yes.
especially the schools down there in the district, where we can kind of, expose the kids down there to some of those things. I just feel sometimes there's a emphasis on having everything over on Central Boulevard and not enough over in Southmost. But like I said, I haven't been down there in a while, so I don't know if anything has changed. But do you think we need to, do more at the Southmost Library?
I am a huge fan of the Southmost, I mean, of the library system for the city of Brownsville. I am aware also that they do uh, equally have the same activities and events at both branches. There is a higher participation rate at the main library branch. One
Right.
of the things I do promote a lot is the library itself to a lot of families in the district because it's there's things to do for everybody. You can send the kids over here, and then mom and dad can go to the other side where they can find resources or they can see other things on there. I know one of the cool things that the Southmost Library has is the observatory. out there. And I did meet today with the gentleman who was in charge of the stars of South Texas Astronomical Society,
Victor de
and he
los
was mentioning
Santos.
to me that they're replacing out the observatory and the telescope there so they can continue to have programs out there. And I think that's really neat. I think 3 years ago I was part of the United Way effort with Kaboom at the Montebella playground. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but one of the cool components about it was that there was coding integrated into it. So the kids at a very young age were able to explore coding. And I think
Right.
that really opens up so many opportunities for kids to see those kinds of industries that really are for the future and that are going to continue to grow. So I think it's having that kind of mindset that we can and incorporate STEM and incorporate all of these things in the activities that we do to really to open it up to all these individuals out there. One of the things I would want to suggest to them is open yourself up to collaborate with local organizations for
Right.
them to host there. For those that have visited the library is on a pretty big set of land that it has a lot of space outside and parking. It is in a very unique spot in the middle, in the heart of the Southmost area, where it's accessible. So I think it's opening opportunities up for collaboration with the library to really use the space to its full potential.
Yeah, one of the things, and by the way, I think the gentleman you spoke about is Victor de los Santos, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
Victor. Yes.
I know Victor. I've actually had Victor once or twice on the show. I can't remember. We had a special just before the James Webb Telescope came out with those new images, and I actually went over when they had their stars at the park over at Resaca de la Palma, and I've
Yes.
attended one of his classes that he holds over there by right there by La Posada. There's an area there uh,
Yes.
where we've done some stargazing classes, so that was
Yes.
kind of cool too.
You know that area is being developed as a park now for the city, right?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, La Posada Park is one of the efforts undergoing with the city of Brownsville to preserve the area there, especially the Montezuma cypress trees. I really applaud Eugene Fernandez. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he really went out there with the city commission, and I remember I did too. I went out and spoke out in front of the city commission, and I said, "Please take care of these trees. Please take care of this area because." This was one of the very first incorporated areas of the town, and we need to preserve this. There is no pocket of cypress trees like anywhere else in the country. And this is something else that is unique to our area. That festival, I mean, that area is being developed into a park. I really want us to have a venue to build like festivals in the
Right.
district to be able to have something big enough to host like the stargazing, but make it into a bigger scale
Yeah.
where the city from North Brownsville, people from North Brownsville can travel to Southmost
Yeah.
and be part of these activities.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, when I went to that stargazing thing, when Victor first told me, "Oh, it's going to be there," I was like, "Huh? There? I mean, what are we
That's my
possibly
neighborhood.
I mean, what are we possibly going to see? I mean, you know how it is. They say that you can't be too far into a city because you may not see anything. Well, I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I was so surprised, when I went down there and I was at that park that you're talking about and we looked and I was like, "Wow, maybe I never looked up to the sky that closely." But it was pretty cool, and I'm really glad that they're doing something with that area because
Yes.
honestly, I had probably driven down La Posada maybe a few times, and I just cruised right down. I didn't realize what that stretch of land was, but it's pretty cool that they're doing something with it, and I hope that they move forward with that. Which kind of leads me to my next question is, with regards to the parks that are down in the district. I mean, I remember as a kid going down to Gonzalez Park and swimming, down there and so forth. And I really never went to Morningside Park, to be honest with you, but I know Morningside Park's down there. I know that in my neighborhood there used to be Ruiz Park, which was this little
Yes.
park right in it was kind of like in a Y section, and I remember, going to the park several times. In fact, it was kind of torturous for me at first because I remember as a kid the Baptists would come in and do a vacation Bible school, and my mom would
Yes.
force me to go to vacation Bible school. And it was like I never wanted to go. Honestly, the only reason I went was because of the raspa that they used to give. That was about it. But that was a cool park. I mean, that was a really cool
It's a
park in
valid
its own
reason.
right, valid reason, So,
Yes.
but I remember, going to that park, and I know they've kind of upgraded it to the years, but we've got those small parks. I mean, what do we need to do with our parks to kind of upgrade them? I mean, there's also Lincoln Park, I think, which is down by the
Yes.
university. Now, I've recently been down there quite a bit because my daughter attends school down at UTRGV, and one of the things that I noticed is that there's a lot of students, and I shouldn't, single them out, but there's a lot of students parking down there. Now, I don't know if there's an agreement with the university for extra parking or because they just can't afford the actual permit to get a school parking spot. But I notice a lot of cars down there, and there is a concern, security and so forth. But what can we do to upgrade our parks? What needs to be done in the district as a whole?
I love this question because it ties directly with quality of life. And I know one of the biggest things I'm fond of is the Southmost Trail that's continuously being developed. This Southmost Trail is connected to the rest of the trails in the town in an effort to connect all of the trails for the city. This trail now runs through and goes all the way to La Posada neighborhood. So you can now walk to places within Southmost and not have to be on the main boulevard. You can go
Oh,
through the
wow.
trails itself. There's a lot of developments also within the parks. I know Morningside Park recently got a new playground. There's been a lot of enhancements in it, and the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of Brownsville does a phenomenal job in keeping up with the parks. I think that uh, the Lincoln Park situation, it's a little. I know there was conversations because the university was trying to go after it, but
Right.
I believe that the city did end up staying with the property. It is public, so students are allowed to park there. There is really no restriction that we can impose.
Oh, okay.
But it's a really important question that we need to answer soon for us to come to an agreement for that park because I know that it could benefit them a lot, but it is also part of the city. So there's a lot of there's a lot of research that we need to look into, a lot of data to really be able to make a big decision like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because one of the things that, as a parent who has, a child that's obviously attending school down at UTRGV, I mean, one of the things that I worry about is because there's actually buildings across the street where there's classes being held, is
Mhm.
there's a lot of traffic on that University Boulevard now. I'm not necessarily sure it's all university traffic in itself. I think it's probably used for shortcuts and things like that, but definitely
Yeah.
students are going back and forth, across the street, and I'm just afraid one day that, something awful's going to happen, to a student, but I did notice, like I said, that there was a lot of parking going on at Lincoln Park, and I wasn't necessarily sure whether it was all students or
Yeah,
something
I
else.
think in that specific situation, the university does have to be more accountable about jaywalking.
Yeah.
They have the necessary lanes for them to be protected. I know that the lights are sensors, so when there's people walking, it turns red automatically, and it has a pretty big walkway, a crosswalk. The students need to use those in order for safety to be considered because I like you go through there a lot because I cross from the district to downtown, and I see students crossing without even looking. Sometimes they just cross,
Right.
and it is really a dangerous situation for us to have. I know the university is looking for different ways for increased safety, but just holding it accountable is low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Don't let them jaywalk, um, but that's on them.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, one of the other things I want to touch on a little bit, as you know, this past week has kind of reminded us of, where we live and what the situation is across the border. There's obviously there was some kidnappings this week in two people lost their lives. I mean, we don't know all the story. I mean, I've heard all kinds of stories, but it really doesn't matter. I mean, at the end, we still have a problem down across the border, but obviously that affects District 1 because, District 1 actually lies on the border. Does it concern you, with respects to how that violence can, affect the district? I mean, a few years back, I remember whether it was true or not, I don't know, but there was like a shootout in Matamoros and then actually it hit the TSC gym building. Um, I don't know how much patrolling there is now with the border patrol down there, but what can the city do to encourage additional safety, especially along the border as it relates to, what's going on across the border?
That's a very valid safety question, definitely. And you did mention across the border. It's not here in Brownsville. The violence is happening in Mexico itself. I believe that Brownsville is a safe city. We have been named one of the safest cities in the country, which includes the residents here living, but also the business that is conducted and such. I've had people visit here from up north and say, it's a completely different experience being here and listening to the national news talk very badly about this area. I
Mm-hmm.
think that our local law enforcement has been doing much to keep us safe. They've been doing a phenomenal job in that. Um, as long as we can continue to be safe here in our city, we can work with Mexico in trying to be a good neighbor. I know recently we just celebrated our 200th year and diplomacy anniversary with Mexico, and that includes being in times like now where we have to work together for the safety of its citizens, of its people. So it's really thinking regionally, Daniel, that we all come and we all sit at the table, all the players, all the cities, the counties, the states, and coming together and saying, what can we do to really enhance, um, continue to safeguard our citizens. Those situations are really out of our control. They don't happen too often. I'm really, really grateful that they don't. Then that last incident that happened was a couple of years ago. We hadn't really heard anything major up until recently. So it's really just keeping an open dialogue. I do feel very safe in my neighborhood, in my community. I want to continue for that to be available for all the citizens in Brownsville. But I continue to reiterate that with people. I say, people listen to what we say, and if we say that it's not safe here, they're going to think that. And so we need to yes, communicate those things, but also speak the truth. We are
Right,
safe in Brownsville.
right. Yeah. Yeah, another citizen had a question. Uh,
I love these questions.
it says, "Are there any plans for sidewalks in the future for the Lopez High School to get students off the street? It's pretty dangerous." I don't remember if there were sidewalks. I went down to Lopez a few
There
years.
never has been sidewalks. I
Yeah,
remember even idea there is in the corner as well of that. I think it's called Dakota,
yeah,
the street. And this issue has been brought up before. I think it's a matter of sometimes we forget the power that we have, Daniel, as people. When we come together, we are strength in numbers, and when we can get behind that necessity, the city has to listen to us. We need
right.
to make it an effort that we all come together and say, this is our kids. This is not us wanting to beautify. No, this is a safety issue, and we need to act on it.
Yeah,
And so I think it's really getting behind it, us as a community and being able to advocate for more sidewalks. I know recently around Dana, Harmony was really calling the city left and right, and I know the Office of Commissioner de los Santos sat down with them and they really gave him an earful. But it was all valid reasons that the kids would walk on grass or on the road, and Dana's like super super narrow, just like Dakota. And now they're looking for other alternatives for sidewalks. So instead of the sidewalk being directly on the road itself,
right.
they moved it 6 feet away. It's still along the road, but now at least we can build an actual sidewalk along the fence where kids and families can walk through. So I think it's just thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
This is something that I can definitely vouch that this is a great necessity that we do have there at Lopez.
So one
Three
of the
questions today, Ramiro. You get a prize.
yeah, he should get a prize, you know. Which I wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to kind of talk about, as we're closing here, we've gone close to an hour, and I just wanted, we could talk forever. Obviously, I hope hope I haven't asked too many questions, myself, but I'd like to give you an opportunity in closing to kind of, tell our viewers. And by the way, our viewers are pretty varied. We're kind of split 50-50 between men and women. Um, a lot of a lot of the people that follow me are space enthusiasts, primarily SpaceX enthusiasts. We do launches. We cover all of SpaceX launches every time they have one. And by the way, I apologize to the viewers today because we were supposed to do a live feed, but SpaceX changed the launch time on me, and the computer's set to go auto, and uh, it didn't go auto after all. So I apologize for the launch, but it won't happen again. You can send emails to Elon for changing the time. But
Copy Daniel Salinas.
that's right. Yeah, but anyway, I'd like to give you an opportunity to kind of, in closing, to talk directly to the viewers, but the viewers in District One, and kind of give us your wrap up of why they should elect you as the next city commissioner for District One.
Thank you, Daniel. This really is an unprecedented race. There's 4 seats of the commission up for this election. That is a whole core voting block in itself. Like I just said right now, and it continues to linger in my mind that we forget sometimes the power we have as people, where we can hold our elected officials accountable, and for them to respond to us. So what I am doing is very challenging, and I know that I cannot do it alone. This really is going to take a village to get this done. But if we can all stand together, I know that we can bring this new generation into the leadership. That's why I chose my slogan to be a new generation of leadership, because there needs to be change in the city. And that change is not going to come easy. Nothing good comes easy. My grandma always instilled that in me as a young person. So it's thinking outside of the box, but it's also collaborating with all of these residents to go out there. That's why I have dedicated now 4 days, 4 hours when I can, and go out there and I walk the streets and I meet the people. Every single sign that is out there, I have personally put up myself in District 1. There's now 60 plus signs out there, but it takes that kind of dedication that I want the people to see. I want you to know your elected official. I want you to approach me with your necessities, because without you, I am nobody. I am here to represent the people, and I am the people's voice. And so unless we can really rally up together, we are going to continue to be told what to do. And I think that it's time for us to really have a seat at the table. There's so much on the line right now. I try to put it into people's minds that the elected officials right now, they're planning for the future, not their future, our future. It's our future that's on the line. And when we really put things into perspective, we really understand the big importance of this election. This election can really pivot the future of Brownsville. Brownsville has been going in the right direction recently, passing the biggest infrastructure budget, going after the fiber connectivity. But all of that takes good leaders to have the interests for the people.
Right.
And unless those interests are for the right place, we're never going to progress. We're never going to advance anywhere. I know that it's going to be an uphill battle, but I am from Southmost, and I know that we deserve better. Most importantly, we deserve to have a choice.
Right.
If I would not have run, we would not have had a choice, and the people deserve to have the choice. It's up to them to decide whether we want to progress forward or we want to keep the same people in power. And so I did not take it lightly. I did think about this for a couple of months. I've always known that I've had public service instilled in me since the very beginning of time of my school. But I'm willing to take that step up. I'm willing to be the leader of District 1. And I know that together we can accomplish so much, but I need you to get involved. I need you to get behind the representative to do the work.
Yeah.
And we should be able to have a good representative that is both accessible, but also has the greatest interest for the people.
Yeah.
So my door is open. Anybody who ever wants to invite me for a conversation, I am more than willing to go out there and speak to anyone who wants to sit down.
Now, Bryan, when does voting actually start and when is the actual election? And by the way, the other clarification is who can actually vote for you in the district? Is it the entire city or just the folks residing in the district? Just for clarification for some of those viewers that are not in the district.
Yeah, the District 1 is specific to its residents, so
Okay.
only the District 1 residents can vote for me.
Okay.
However, during early voting, all voting locations you can go vote there.
Okay.
It is only on election day that you must go to your precinct, to your assigned location. Early voting right now is from April 24th through May the 6th.
Okay.
I'm sorry, May the 2nd, and then election day is on May 6th.
Okay. So if a person chooses to do the early vote when they get to their designated, well, wherever they go, when they scan their license or their voter registration card, they'll be given a ballot for the district that they pertain to, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So they're not going to get like District 2 or District 3 or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
And the other positions that anybody can vote for are the city commissioners at large and the mayor seat. Those are citywide, but the specific districts do fall within its boundaries.
Yeah. All righty, Bryan. Well, we definitely enjoyed having you on tonight. We wish you the best of luck here in the election, and if you are, elected, you are welcome anytime back. Chime into our show. We've got our SpaceX live coverages almost every week when they happen, and we've got a few tech shows here and there. So we definitely encourage you to stop by again. And like I said, if you get elected, you can count that I'll be calling you back.
Oh, I
almost
bet
every
you.
month. So
And you're more than welcome to, Daniel, anytime. This was really a great time. I love being approached by questions by the residents, again, because I don't know what's out there. When you bring this to our attention, that's when we can take action. So I really appreciate having these kind of dialogues. Please invite me in the future again. I'd love to come back and take part in the show again.
All righty, not a problem, Bryan. Well, everybody, that wraps our show tonight. We will have the following week a few other people running for city commission seats, so stay tuned for those. And once again, this was Bryan Martinez. He is running for city commissioner, District 1. Bryan, thank you for tonight.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you all who tuned in tonight.
All righty. You guys have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Likewise.